That is your counterattack.
We are attacking! We are defending! We are counterattacking!
Okay, so let's see what we have inside of LFT number 15. So the only two magazines that are still available out of the original 15 are LFT 15 and LFT 14, the Italian one. And this one's soon to be out of print too. Well, it's already out of print, but it's soon to be out of stock, unavailable soon. All the rest, if you can find a copy on eBay or something, grab them, because there were some fantastic magazines covering some great themes. This theme is arid climate. So we're going to have 8 maps with arid terrain and desert boards, in other words. Some new terrain types in there, and a whole bunch of scenarios, 20-something scenarios. So, and as they put it, a bunch of scenarios. All right, so let's look through the magazine first. So we have note from the editor, and then we have a article on advancing fire. Now, advancing fire is the fine fellows over in Italy. So then, moving along, more articles. Here is, because this is a French magazine, there is a mandatory pain au chocolat and the photos. And then here's an interview with Steve Swan, the prolific designer. All right, and then talking about the Italian dice towers. And then some cartoons, which will always be in the LFT stuff. And here's some history. North African, Tireur in the Tunisian campaign, the armed fist of revenge. All right, so a lot of colonial troops here, but I think this is their story, how they worked their way from Africa into Europe. Then the Tunisian campaign, nice big article on that. And there's a lot of these scenarios that are going to be Tunisian, so which I love, because Tunisian is mid-war, so you have good tanks, but not, Death Stars, and you have so many different nationalities. You have the Germans, the Italians, the French, the Americans, the British. Please forgive me if I'm leaving somebody out. So here's Tunisian campaign explained. And Tunisia, by the way, the OCS game Tunisia, one of my favorites. Really, really fun game. I didn't know anything about the campaign until I played that game. All right, then an article on surrendering. So this should have been in LFT 14, pardon the joke. And then we have the maps. So here's all the articles, descriptions, and the maps. And there are 8 of them. And then an article on the desert arid terrain. So that'll help out a bunch. Let me tell you, if you haven't played the desert, play it. It's easily my favorite, along with Bocage. I love those two. Those two, I'll never turn down a game. Then all the different terrain types. A lot of these terrain types are new. So we have let's go back a little bit. All right, so we have a transitional board. We'll talk about that in a second when we see it. We have cactus patches, cactus hedges, woods, which are light woods, vineyards, grain, thick grain, combined terrain, crag brush, mosque temple, arid debris, minaret tower, shaft, not the movie. Oh, no. Those was a counter for Samuel L. Jackson. I think it is the movie. Stacking, arid debris, movement, rubble, shell holes, all the explanations for that. Arid plaza, oasis well, fountain, and all the rules that go with it. High walls, broken terrain, broken ground, arid rooftop. Then we get into the Russian Civil War. This relates, I imagine, to the scenarios that are included. And then a couple ads, some night rules or explanations for the night in the desert. And the end. Some books to read. And, oh, looky, my ad. All right. And that's 84 solid pages of reading. All right, then we get into the 8 maps. I'm going to flip these over instead of opening them up because I don't have a really wide angle. So here we have, and this is a lower level right here. So it's either a half level or a full level by SSR, lower. So should be interesting at half level. All right, so that would be board number 3. Board number 1 and number 2 came out in other publications from LFT, and they are long out of print, but Xavier, I know, is toying with the idea of reprinting them. So here we have 4. So we have a little tiny little farmhouse or something in the middle of the desert, and those will probably be high walls by SSR, which are full level. Special rules. And then a little cluster of homes over here. Then we have, LFT 5 and another little village with an oasis over here. Alrighty. Then we have LFT 6, and this is prime Tunisian real estate with the hills and the passes. And then we have LFT 7, which I believe is a carbon copy of LFT 6, except with this big village on the hill. And Tunisian again. All right. Then we have LFT 8, and this looks like Tunisia once more. I love this type of terrain. LFT 9. Here we have another little, I believe, a little sunken area. Cactus patches with a path through it. Now this one's interesting, and this one opens up all the possibilities for design your own. This is LFT 10, and it's a transitional map. So you have arid desert over here, and then you have regular, ETO over here. So with this map, you can put anything on the desert side, desert boards, and then anything from the rest of your maps on this side. So the transition. So that's wonderful. All right, now we get to the scenarios. So we have 20-something scenarios. So Bear Valley. Let's start with this one because this one's the most fun to talk about. And this will be January 1918, and it is 10th U.S. Buffalo Soldiers Cavalry against the, forgive me here, the Yaquis Warriors. So these will be Native Americans, and this is in Arizona. So, and the Americans are, well, I shouldn't say the Americans, they're all Americans, but the cavalry is cavalry on horses. Then we have Mongolia, 1919. Then we have, and I'm going to tell you, there's a couple of these scenarios that do not use the new desert boards. So I will try to point those out. Then we have a bunch of scenarios from Syria. So the Vichy against the British. So that would be one of them. This would be another one of them, also 1941. Then this would be Lebanon, 1941. And then we go to Crete, 1941, the Fallschirmjägers that are not entering by Paradrop. All right. Then we have China with the Japanese against the Communist Chinese. Then we have the Italians. No. Then we have the Spanish against the Spanish in Spain. Can't we all just get along? Then we have Manchukuo in 1936, and that would be the Japanese against the Communist Chinese. And this is part of this one, so there's a two-pager. So this will be Genghis Khan lives in Mongolia, and that will be the Chinese against the White Russians. How much fun is that? The White Russians. All right. Then we have no post here, which is Manchukuo again, and this is the Russians against the Japanese. The Russians against the Manchukuoan border guards and Japanese. Nice. Very small. 5 turns. Played in a couple hours, I'm sure. Then France, 1944. American paratroopers on June 6th against German second line and conscript squads with some French borrowed tanks. Then we have Burma, 1945, and that will be the some guerrillas, not the animal, and then the Nehru Brigade of, it almost looks like Hindus. So I haven't read it, but, and then you have, looks like an amphibious invasion by the British. And then that one we already looked at. And then Engineer Hill will be the Aleutians. Don't know how many Aleutian scenarios there are out there. This is Americans against Japanese, of course. And then Italy, 1943, the Germans against the Americans. All right, and then first skirmish, which is Tunisia. This is an all-tank battle, and this is 19 American tanks against 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 German tanks. And then we have more Tunisia, and this is a pretty big setup card. The Germans and Italians against an attacking British force. Then we have the Italians against the British in Tunisia. And then we have the Germans, the Afrika Korps, against the Americans and British in Tunisia. Then we have the British against the Germans in Tunisia. And then we have the Germans against the Russians in Berlin, April 1945. We know how that turned out, and that does not use one of the new boards. All right, then here we have the Vichy against the British again. That's what we have in the wonderful new boards and the action-packed magazine. We have LFT 15. Well, thanks for watching.